Episode 49, Gender-Based Violence, Part 2, an episode motivated by Justice for Namhla. Hello and welcome to Dumi's Daily Grind. My name is Dumi and thank you for joining me today. I have created this channel to share my life experiences, inspirations I have found from others, and learnings I have earned, and things I have been taught throughout various periods of my life, especially the ones related to sobriety, finding serenity, and general mental health topics with spiritual growth at the forefront. Please subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and please support the channel by becoming a Patreon. The link is available below. It is sad that I have to do another episode on gender-based violence, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, and femicide in South Africa. I am still at a point that I do not follow the news because of the negative reporting on our society. Please don't get me wrong. The reporting must happen. In fact, we need to highlight all news pertaining to this subject until something is done about it. I know that it is a task that is really big, but it is a very important task. In this episode, I take an in-depth look at factors that cause GBV and how we can prevent it and correct the normalization of violence in our society. Because I think that something is very wrong with us and something is very wrong with our society. Please bear with me as this episode is quite long. However, I really needed to include all the information as it is all significant here. In this episode, I want to talk about gender-based violence, and I, as an individual, can fully state that I have experienced GBV and SV, or more specifically in my case, SA, as a child. I also remember as a teenager hearing how cool it was to have a partner who is violent towards you as a young girl. And I remember thinking, that does not sound right at all. As a survivor myself, I had a few incidences where I experienced violence in relationships. It would be nice for me to do this episode and say it hasn't happened to me, but it has. However, I was able to get out as soon as I experienced any sort of violent treatment from someone. I have ended relationships as soon as I saw signs of violence against me, and I was lucky enough to get out intact. Unfortunately, not every woman has been so lucky. There are thousands of women who have perished in the hands of their husbands, boyfriends, and their intimate partners. It is unfortunate that I have to use the example of Unamhla Mtwa, as it is the latest incident that has been trending. I have included two audio files in this episode. These two audio files from the two different sides of the story for you to draw up your own conclusion on the matter. Please be patient and listen to these. So, as of last week, social media was awakened to the shooting of Namhla Mtwa, who was killed on the 21st of April 2022 in her car on her driveway by an intimate partner, it is alleged. This case has now caught the attention of millions of South Africans who are now following her family, who are releasing disturbing photographs, a video, and messages they found on her phone, messages that go back and forth between her and her boyfriend. Mtwa was 35 years old and was employed by the OR Tambo municipality. She was shot 9 times following her arrival at home while still in her car in Sidwadwa, Mthatha. They found gunshot wounds to her upper body and she was declared dead on the scene. Her boyfriend is said to be the 41-year-old Eastern Cape businessman Major Mfesane Begizulu, who has since denied the allegations that he is behind the murders of his girlfriend, saying Namhla Mtwa. He is quoted to have said, "I have done nothing wrong. I am innocent and would like the public to allow the law to run its course because the residents are now jeopardizing the case by going after me, as this might ruin chances of getting the real perpetrator." This he said to News 24 when they called him to inquire about the murder. He then refused to answer further questions and hung up, ending the call with the reporter who called him. It is also reported that he was arrested in 2018 for shooting and killing his employee in September of that year, named Mxolisi Mthunjwa, and seriously injuring another, Tembela Somana, on the 11th of August in the same year. A month on and no arrests have been made for her murder. Now, people around her knew that this was happening in their midst, her family, her friends, and I'm sure that her colleagues were also aware of it. But in South Africa, we don't do anything until somebody dies, until a woman dies in the hands of her intimate partner. Why is that, I ask, and why do we keep asking that annoying question of why did she stay? Can we please stop asking that question? More information has emerged since Sowetan Live interviewed Namhla Mtwa's cousin, who talks about her relationship with the alleged abuser and the night that she was killed. Bulelani Nonyukela is credited for the audio production that we are about to listen to, which was published on the 26th of May 2022 and can be found on their website.
Mthatha in the Eastern Cape was at standstill on Wednesday as thousands of people marched to the police station to demand justice for Namhla Mtwa. Mtwa was shot dead in her car when she arrived at her home in Sidwadwa in April. Her murder caused a public uproar after her sister Sangano Zintathu Mtwa took to social media alleging she had been in an abusive relationship with her partner of 7 years, Major Mfesane Begizulu, and shared photos showing the violence she allegedly endured during the relationship. Wanoyolo Qoli, Namhla's cousin, said Namhla was the first graduate in her immediate family.
Namhla was a very loving and polite lady. She wouldn't hurt a fly. She was very focused. She did not grow up in an easy environment. But despite that, she made sure that she was able to make something out of her life. Her mother, for example, did not get the opportunity to get educated, but Namhla made sure that she is going to educate herself and get a diploma to be successful and to just make her mom and siblings proud. She's the first graduate. She's also the first one to get a car. She's one of those who was always pushing through.
Goli mentioned that Namhla was killed as she tried to leave the relationship. She described the relationship Namhla had with her alleged abuser.
This relationship started at a very young age when Namhla was still completing her high school years. She met this guy, and she met Namhla a vulnerable state of her life, her trying to, a black child, it's difficult to sometimes to even get yourself to varsity. And we believe that at that point in time, Major was that kind of boyfriend who was a support system to Usingwa. He supported her. He played a role in her achieving some of the things she achieved, because we've always seen him there in the life. It's also always been a toxic relationship, because then it became a situation of maybe a guy who's going to say, I did this for you. Then in return, you need to do this. So she couldn't now, I think, leave the guy, because maybe the guy felt that he's done this. Now you can't just leave me, into this, which I think maybe it's a trap that sometimes the black child gets into. So this guy started feeling like, I control you, so you're going to have to listen to what I am saying. It got to a point that our aunts did speak to him and say, how much does this child owe you, so that we can pay you out this child, so that you just leave her alone, because now you are married. And this situation, like the situation of him being married and Unamhla also being involved with this guy, was not a nice situation. But it's a situation that was spoken about, and Umejad, I think, did not want to remove himself, or I don't know whether it became now an obsession. And unfortunately, when their relationship was going on, we did not know what is happening when they are together. Never mind get the beatings. I think a lot happened there, and a lot maybe that we still don't know. But thankfully that there was Usanga that Usingwa could confide in. The relationship became strenuous in a way that it almost felt like this guy was almost like poisoning Unamhla against her family. Then I think when the beatings became unbearable and she also could not hide, then that is where you could see, because for some reason Namhla protected this guy also a lot. I think she feared for her life. She wanted to leave, but I think the guy would just convince him all the time. She was really desperate. She really wanted to. And in fact, at the time of her death, she was dating someone else. And there was also a speculation around that. Of course, he was probably not happy about it, that she has now found happiness. When she eventually decided to move home, it was when this guy beat her, and then she was like, I'm going to die in this flat. I'd rather move home. So then she moved home. But this guy was like, I'll follow you most wherever you are. And the sad situation that maybe escalated this, for this guy to behave like this, was there was nobody, even its daughter, who was going to reprimand him because of his powers, Namhla's dad passed on a long time ago. The uncles passed on a long time ago.
Police said police only started investigating after the matter was reported on social media. She said car hire company Avis said her boyfriend reported an attempted hijacking of the car to the company. The family said the man claiming to be from Tata Police arrived to fetch the car to be impounded at the police station. Police Minister Bheki Cele and National Police Commissioner Sehlahle Masemola were in Mthatha on Thursday. Police spoke about the night Namhla was killed.
It was a Thursday night at about just after 7 o'clock in the evening. We got a call from my aunt who was there, who witnessed it. How she relayed the story to us was she was still very hysterical at that moment. She said that Namhla has just arrived from home, and she heard Baiman, she's not coming inside. And then she heard gunshots, and she went outside. When she went outside, she saw somebody shooting. She screamed, and the guy just walked out. He just walked away. And then she went to check and discovered that Unamhla has been shot. And then I think the neighbors came out to assist. And then she started calling all of us. And then she was telling us that the car is still idling, the driveway. it swerved because the driveway is actually a kind of like steep one. And then it swerved, and then she even mentioned that the car's engine is still running. And then she said she's waiting for police because at that moment we couldn't confirm whether has passed on or not. Also, and then it was confirmed to us, I think, right after 8 o'clock, that indeed she passed on. And I think it's the neighbors who confirmed this, but subsequent to that, the ambulance and the guys, police came and declared her dead on the scene inside the car. Apparently, her arm or her leg was up, like, I don't know, she was trying to escape. How we are told, my aunt relays, is that she tried to fight.
In February, Cele released crime statistics for the third quarter of 2021-2022 from October to December. They showed that 902 women were murdered in just 3 months. For Times Live Podcast, I am Bulelani Nonyokela.
Please listen to more audio at the end of this video from Amanda's friend as she talks about what was going on from the perspective of Major's wife, Amanda, and what used to happen in this relationship between Mtwa, Major, and his wife and children. So now, let me clearly define gender-based violence once again so that we understand the subject and the related antonyms. The following description is quoted from saferspaces.org.za, and it is simply explained as the following. There are many different definitions of gender-based violence, but it can be broadly defined as the general term used to capture violence that occurs as a result of the normative role expectations associated with each gender, along with the unequal power relationships between the genders within the context of a specific society. The expectations associated with different genders vary from society to society, and over time, patriarchal power structures dominate in many societies in which male leadership is seen as the norm and men hold the majority of power. Now, patriarchy is a social and political system that treats men as superior to women, where women cannot protect their bodies, meet their basic needs, participate fully in society, and men perpetrate violence against women with impunity. It is further broken down as follows. Forms of gender-based violence. There are many different forms of violence, and all these types of violence can be, and almost always are, gendered in nature because of how gendered power inequalities are entrenched in our society. GBV can be physical, sexual, emotional, financial, or structural, and can be perpetrated by intimate partners, acquaintances, strangers, and institutions. Most acts of interpersonal gender-based violence are committed by men against women, and the men perpetrating the violence is often known by the woman, such as a partner or a family member. Now, violence against women and girls, known as VAWG, GBV is disproportionately directed against women and girls, and for this reason, you may find that some definitions use GBV and some definitions use VAWG interchangeably. Now, violence against LGBT people, however, it is impossible for people of all genders to be subject to GBV. For example, GBV is often experienced by people who are seen as not conforming to their gender-assigned gender roles, such as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and or intersex people. Intimate partner violence, known as IPV, is the most common form of GBV and includes physical, sexual, and emotional abuse and controlling behaviors by a current or former intimate partner or a spouse, and can occur in heterosexual or same-sex couples. Domestic violence, DV, refers to the violence which is carried out by partners or families, and as such, DV can include IPV but also encompasses violence against children or other family members. Sexual violence, known as SV, is any sexual act, attempt to obtain a sexual act, unwanted sexual comments or advances, or acts to traffic or otherwise directed against a person's sexuality using coercion by any person regardless of their relationship to the victim in any setting, including but not limited home or work. Indirect structural violence is where violence is built into structures appearing as unequal power relations and consequently as unequal opportunities. Structural violence exists when certain groups, classes, genders, or nationalities have privileges and have access to goods, resources, opportunities over others, and when this unequal advantage is built into the social, political, and economical systems that govern their lives. Now, because of the ways in which this violence is built into the system, political and social change is needed over time to identify and address the structural violence itself. Now, accurate statistics in South Africa are hard to find, according to this article, due to mostly the well-known fact that victims or survivors do not report these incidences to the police, meaning that the statistics that have been reported by the police are only based on what we have reported. Now, I can tell you that I have never opened a docket related to what I have experienced. I simply got out, and SV that I experienced was never spoken about until I was an adult. So, no charges have been laid by myself against anyone. With that said, I understand why survivors such as myself can choose not to report. Now, this is largely due to the facts surrounding our society's views on GBV and how we would rather protect perpetrators rather than embarrass ourselves and our families. We see daily perpetrators being freed and are afraid to report it. So we will still have, because we will still have to deal with the perpetrators on a day-to-day basis. We think they will not be punished and will be returned to society and to continue as they did before. Now, the statistics that are available and what we know is as follows, and I have to quote here to just simplify things for us. Now, while people of all genders perpetrate and experience intimate partner violence and or sexual violence, men are most often the perpetrators and women and children are victims. More than half of all women murdered, which is 56% in 2009, were killed by an intimate male partner. Between 25% to 40% of South African women have experienced sexual and or physical IPV in their lifetime. Just under 50% of women report having experienced emotional or economical abuse at the hands of their intimate partners in their lifetime. The prevalence estimates of rape in South Africa range between 12% and 28% of women ever reporting being raped in their lifetime. Between 28 and 37% of adult men report having been raped by a woman. Non-partner violence is particularly common, but reporting to police is very low. One study found that 1 in 13 women in Gauteng have reported non-partner rape, and only 1 in 25 rapes had been reported to the police. South Africa also faces a high prevalence of gang rape. Now, most men who rape do so for the first time as teenagers, and almost all men who ever rape do so by their mid-20s. There is limited research into rape targeting women who have sex with women. One study across 4 South African countries, including South Africa, found that 31.1% of women reported having experienced forced sex. Male victims of rape are another understudied group. One survey in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape found that 9.6% of men reported having experienced sexual victimization by another man. Before I get into the next section of information, I would like to define patriarchy, as it is cited to be one of the grounds for high levels of GBV. Now, it is defined as a system of society or government in which the father or the eldest male is head of the family, and descent is reckoned through the male line. It is further defined as a system of society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it, and also a society or community organized on patriarchal lines instead of maternal lines. This can be summarized as a system in which men are dominant over the rest of society, but more specifically over women. The societal norms in our country dictate, according to tradition and moral authority, that men have social privileges over others as they inherit control over property, named as a patrilineal society and not a matrilineal society. The ideology behind this justifies the dominance due to inherent differences in biology, genetics, and reproductive differences between men and women. We believe that men and women are physically unequal, and therefore the stronger of the two sexes have led our societies through time. Men exercise their power over women to maintain control. As we are right now, the majority of societies in the world practice patriarchy in society, in legal terms, politically, religiously, and economic structures. Now, patriarchy means the father or chief of a race. So, power is primarily held by adult men, and therefore is now understood as a social phenomena rather than a biological one. In Ubuntu, it is called ubunzalimizi or ubuzalumuzi in singular terms. Hence, our family names are derived from our fathers rather than our mothers in a matriarchal society. Most societies used to practice matriarchy instead, and we still have a few that have remained till today and are still thriving, where women are revered and honored as child bearers and rule over their societies. These societies are still found in all continents where lineage is matriarchal, such as the Umoja tribe in Kenya, founded in 1990 by survivors of GBV who have banned men altogether in their community. The Bribri people in Costa Rica, the Mosuo people in China, the Minangkabau people in Indonesia, who are the largest surviving matriarchal society with approximately 4 million people, where marriage is feasible. However, men sleep separately to their women. There is another tribe in Ghana called the Akan people, with their social organization built around what is called a Metri clan, with female founders. Women led the society. However, men are known also to hold leadership positions as well. In the Khasi tribe in India, men are not even entitled to attend family gatherings, and the family name is passed from the woman, and men who marry into the society take the wife's last name, which is passed down then to their children. So, what drives gender based violence? Patriarchy, as said earlier, is the primary driver of GBV. Unfortunately, with IPV in particular being more prevalent within societies with cultures of violence and male superiority at the forefront of society, men have an entitlement over women and children, especially when it comes to sex with women. They strictly enforce these gender based roles where women have a lower societal value and power through practicing masculinity used to control women and children. Now, unfortunately, our culture creates this violence against women under certain situations, and hence we have the bad habit of blaming the woman for staying. And we do not report this violence that we see perpetuated against women and children in our society. Now, in South Africa, I quote, GBV pervades the political, economical, and social structures of society and is driven strongly through patriarchal social norms and complex intersectional power inequalities, including those of gender, races, class, and sexuality. This simply means that as a man in a society, you are born with privileges that give you power over everyone else, and thus are the ones who want to enforce those privileges as they feel rightfully entitled to do so through violence, because the opposite gender are generally weak or don't hold enough power within society and to strictly enforce their rules, in my opinion. Now, when I was discussing this case of Mtwa, I was made aware that the Eastern Cape province as a whole is well known for GBV to such an extent that it is common to see beautiful Xhosa women there on the streets with various scars on their faces and on their bodies, accompanied by the very same intimate partners who are the reason for those scars. It is common there, apparently, to witness GBV, IPV, and femicide. It is a societal norm. Men would use their hands, knives, belts, broken bottles on their partners to enforce their rules on their woman. It is sickening to know that in South Africa, regardless of race, religion, sexual orientation, or culture, it is normal for this to happen. And that is why we have such a high prevalence in GBV, SV, and femicide. It is really disgusting when politicians and political organizations take advantage of Twitter trends and start organizing marches against GBV and femicide when they themselves are leading those specific societies with the knowledge of the problem within their own organizational structures, and within them are the very same perpetrators, witnesses, and creators of the very same problem that they are marching against. If Jesus was around, he would probably repeat his statement during these marches and state, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to cast a stone," as quoted from John 8, verse 7 in the Christian Bible. I say this because these politicians are acting as if they are without sin when it comes to GBV. Perpetrators live among us. They are our sons, our husbands, our fathers, our brothers, our cousins, and our in-laws. They don't live in a society of their own. They live with us. We see it daily. We experience it in public and in private. We know, and yes, we know them all. And we do nothing about it. We say nothing about it. We take no action until someone dies, until I should say, a woman starts trending on social media after her death. We then jump on the boat and all of a sudden have something to say about the very same perpetrators. We know, we see, we let go to carry on in their ways of destroying, raping, harming, and killing our women and children. We are all culprits, all of us. Women who remain silent, men who don't do anything when they hear about what happens, and children who are not protected and who have absolutely no power to speak out. I am here to warn all of us about complacency. There is a quote attributed to Edmund Burke that states, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." Side note, this quote has been found that Burke actually said something more like, "Thoughts on the cause of the present discontent. When bad men combine, the good must associate, else they will fall, one by one, an unpitied sacrifice in a contemptible struggle." Complacency feeds the scourge of gender-based violence. Complacency of society leads to the growth that we see, and continued complacency will lead to more aggressive perpetuating this behavior. So what can be done? I live in a neighborhood that is struggling right now to just unite. We are facing challenges that could easily be resolved through a unified front, with a unified solution, a solution that needs everyone of the residents to contribute a little towards the challenges. Now, the major issue that stops us from achieving our goals in my neighborhood are simple, in my opinion. The separation of is based within different traditions, practices by the ones we live with. It is more important for people to group themselves according to religious beliefs, cultural practices, traditional practices, tribe foundations, locations where one comes from, etc., than to unite. Now, I mention my neighborhood here because it strongly resembles the South African society as a whole, and in my opinion, the divisions are the main problem when we look at the causes of continued GBV, IPV, SV, and femicide. We need to change our minds. We are responsible for saying no to GBV being normalized. We are the very ones who normalize it and are the only ones who can change the situation. We need to say it. We need to say it is not okay for my neighbor to beat up his wife. It is not okay for my friend to exercise violence over his intimate partner. We are the ones who need to report our family members for harming their women and children. lest we say nothing on social media, lest we stop pointing fingers, because when we do, 4 fingers are pointing right back at ourselves. So there are 2 ways we can stop this. We can address it through responding and through prevention, with response being the support of survivors through medical help, psychological support, providing safety, security, and shelter. We can prevent GBV from happening altogether through initiatives that address underlying causes, some of which I have mentioned earlier. I think our government has put really good policies and programs in place. However, by addressing the underlying causes of GBV, we can eradicate it from our societies. We can look at implementing and practicing the following things that have proven to be effective. Firstly, promoting the promotion of mothers and fathers' engagement in their infants, improve parent-child relationships, emotional regulation, positive behavior management in children. We have to stop the abuse of children in general and promote inclusivity when it comes to gender roles as perceived by society. What this means is that we as parents need to encourage our own children in interacting equally and promoting equal status for girls and boys. We need to continuously encourage our children in the understanding that we are equal regardless of genetics, sexuality, and material possessions. We need to reduce sexual risky behavior and intimate partner violence through preparing our children early from performing harmful sexually related behaviors that encourage the exercising of power for men over women through sexual violence, such as rape of any kind, including spousal rape. We need to actively discourage intimate partner violence among teenagers that we see in our societies. Now, can we please start very early and discussing sexual health, sexual rights, and the reproductive system of both men and women? Do not leave it to the Department of Education to teach your child in school about sex. Take responsibility for your child and help prevent deviancy in adulthood. Let us be open about mental health issues. Let us welcome and support those who are brave enough to address their mental health statuses and are willing to go and seek help. Let us be vigilant and help those who are unaware of their negative impact on society. Let's be in the forefront of implementing psychological well-being of our people. Please, and strengthen our livelihoods. We have to improve our socio-economic well-being, social capital, and empowerment, and be active in reducing vulnerability to intimate partner violence that stems from dependencies on one partner, which results in unequal power dynamics within relationships. Hopefully, the next generation will look back at us with improved eyes and think we were an uncivilized society to normalize GBV, IPV, SVDV, and violence against women and girls. Together, we can do this and can simply start by making changes at home within our family structures and refuse to comply with these normalized sins we see in our society, in our churches, in our institutions, and in our country as a whole. I mentioned earlier about an audio recording detailing the relationship between Mtwa, Major's wife Amanda, and the children involved. I am not going to give my opinion on the statements in this clip, as I have not in the previous audio clip. However, I think it is important to add it in here so you can form your own opinion about how we as a society have normalized GBV. Here is an unedited, uncut version of the audio.
Inhlungu ke mzala is that nizawumane nifumana ezi version ngezi version nizifumanayo ngale ntombazana. Much as uba ingekho right into yenziwe ngumajor, but naye zange amphathi kakuhle umkamajor lo wokuqala. Umkamajor esasiphangela naye lo mntana ejola nomajor. Eva ke sasiphangela naye uAmanda lo ejola nomajor. I mean wayetshate nomajor. Lo mntana you can't believe into yoba wayekhupha uAmanda main bedroom amxelele into yoba akho yakho wena akho nto uyifunayo apha umajor akasakuthandi, ahambe aye phaa kulo major xa kukho imisebenzi aqaphele uba abafazi bayahamba baye emizini yabo, ufike etshikiza uAmanda phaya, yena lo mntana ehleli nootata ontontoni eyiloo nto ekhwaza mamxesibe lo mntana. Eva uAmanda njengoba eyinesi ephuma u7 engena u7 aphuma u7, lo mntana wayefika uAmanda ehleli ese-main bedroom athi hayi hambolala. Ndikhumbula the day awayefika esibhedlela, efika siphaya, wafika ezoxelela uAmanda uba yena udikiwe kuba umajor emane esiyobhukisha ile ntuka i-B&Bs for into yoba balale. Ebesahlala kokwabo ke mos lo mntana lo xesha, wathi udikiwe. Eva ke wathini, wamxelela into yoba mna kandithethi into ndiyivayo ke yinto wayeyitsho eye phaa eyogezela umkamajor uba yena udikiwe kuba kubhatalwe kwi-B&Bs ntontoni, yabo, and yena udikiwe kuhlala efletini, yabo. So into azawuyenza caba kumajor kuneflet awayeyirenta bamane beyolala kuyo, wathi udikiwe ufuna ulala e-main bedroom. Wayefika uAmanda elila afika ibalise because ekuqaleni uAmanda committed i-suicide ngile nto eyenzekayo engayithethi, kanti kudala iqhuba le nto. Uzokwazi ukuthetha mhla sasibheke ethe mandimkhaphe siyothatha ikhazini yakhe eyayifunda eSt John's, siyothatha le cousin sizayithatha then ihambe nabantwana bakaAmanda baye endlini, lo mntana afika apakisheke izinto zakhe then bayothatha uAmanda. Uyakwazi uqhuba mos lo mntana, bahambe bayothatha uAmanda, yabo. So akafuni uAmanda, wayengafuni uba imoto ibe phaya emsebenzini so that azawukwazi udoja kakuhle ibe imoto ibingekho. Wadibana nathi lo mntana phaa ngaseSt John's, kanti caba besilandela, wabuza uba ithini. Caba ke uAmanda bebexabene nomajor njengoba bethatha abantwana nje ehamba nabo esiya kokwabo, wayesiya nabo kokwabo kwinto eyayikhona kokwabo. Wathi azuhamba nabo, wabuza omnye uba ungena phi entweni yam, entweni yabantwana bam, because ngabantwana bam uthanda izohamba. Efike wanqumleza laa Benz ebeyiqhuba le iye yoxuthwa ke ngumajor. Wathi uAmanda ke wayehamba nge-X6 ke yena ke njengoba yena wayehamba ngalaa Benz. Umntu wokuqala uqhuba i-X6 apha eMthatha ngumnkamajor onguAmanda. Phofu uAmanda usuka phi nomajor, uAmanda mos ujole nomajor. Lucky for me into yoba I was so close kuAmanda because thina ekholejini sifikele kubo, yabo. So umajor ke ngoku ebesaphangela ebhankini ebekunye noAmanda eyeka nje ebhankini sele emtshatile uAmanda, bakunye noAmanda. Eva ke ngoku waqalisa kuyawazi amadoda asawuba nemali aba-excited athini abezezo zinto. Okay fine, okokuqala umajor wayeyithela, siqale apho wazethela, uyava. So uzowuqalisa ezinto zebhizinesi ngoku sebetshatile noAmanda. Okay fine, yeke ke siyeke le ndikule yoba sidibane nabo afika anqumlezise ke le Benz yakhe ebhenquza ngezampundu zibethwe zabola ebhenquza ngazo pha uba abashiyeka uyabuza Amanda njani abantwana bam athi ke yena ke ulo mntana ngabendoda yam so uzobashiya awuhambe nabo watsho esithi ebantwaneni phumani nina baphuma ke bahamba bayongena elentukeni wathi for the sake of idrama hambani ongena bahamba ke bayongena abantwana pha enze into and ke ngoku ulo mntana bayindi ubephangela uNamhla bephangela elentukeni bephangela ntsho eOR Tambo uAmanda is just a professional nurse ever ke waphuma ke ulo mntana uAmanda mina baphuma abantwana bakaManda bawungena kule ntombazana wemka nabo yandiva so mna ke much as uba uMajor engenzanga nto irayithi yokumbulala because noba ebenze ntoni na ubengakhange ayicele laa mntana ubemenzela izibele kunento elityalwayo ke ngamantombazana ke mzala xa besenze izinto zabo zamayeza much as uba thina sibanda singenabantu uyabona xa benze izinto zabo zamayeza bayalibala uba ekugqibeleni izawubuya ngam umntu because izinto zamayeza xa zibuya zinempetha izinto zamayeza saside sisitsho ke sisithi yho bayavuyo namhla bona hayi mntakabawo hayi bayavakala bashushu saside sihleka kwenye igame ababepha noMajor kwipati endandikuyo bepha futhi ke zange abe comfortable ukuhlala because noba wayecinga into yoba undazelaphi wazova ke into yoba ndine so inoba zawazi ukukhumbula uba laa mntu wayehamba noAmanda baye bahamba noMajor kuloo pati kwakukho yona eyayise-North Crest bemka mhlambe ke babehamba into zabo ke okanye ke zangafilishe comfortable but ke waba nguloo mntu ungekho right wethu bemka ke sentsho into yoba much as uba ingekho right into yokubulawa komntu but ezi zinto bazenzayo abaye babuze into yoba ekugqibeleni izawuphela ndawo nizandibeka phi mna kula magqirha bahamba because akekho umntu oshushu lo mhlobo uba ungade khona ubushushu kwakhiwe u11 rooms lo abazali bakhe bebesithini ngelaa xesha besakhelwa bekusokhiwa phaa kokwabo iitrakhi zikaMajor bezihlala kulala mntana othi ubufuna amanzi uxelele uba zingapha ejixini iitrakhi bebecinga uba kuzawuthini ekugqibeleni 2 njengoba uye washiywa ngulwakhona kumfazi ushiyiwe ngumfazi lo bekhona kuye kwashiyana ukutyefesa ukuqina kwabantu because kaloku andithi wayesithi kuthiwa ubengafuni ukutshata noMajor kutshiwo ke kuthiwa wayesithi akafuni ukutshata noMajor ntontoni xa ebengafuni ukutshata noMajor uphumela ntoni kaloku kwi-relationship because ke ngoku okuqhaqhaza kwakhe nokubethwa nokuthwani yile nto into yoba efuna uphuma kwi-relationship ebebethelwane hayi wageza laa mntana wamhlukumeza umkaMajor wemka apha emthatha yiyeke ke le yoba kuthiwa wabhaqwa elentukile ewe kaloku akazungajoli because akalali nandoda uyamva kwezinye ilentuka utsho into yoba uMajor bengasandilali ebengasathini yile yayisenziwa uAmanda wayenendoda ngegama indoda iye kaNamhla atsho seyithethe ezitshomini zakhe athi andikhathali noba uMajor angahamba ayolala kulaa ndlu uAmanda soze amvume uMajor makahambe ovuma amanye amadoda ubufuna ulalo kwakutsho yena wayicinga uba kuzoba njani ke ngoku fine ke wajola uAmanda watsho wohlukana noMajor wemka uAmanda wemka wathutha kwakungehlanga ngoku wayihamba kwangemandanga nangeli xesha ajolayo Amanda wayengajoli kuba kumnandi wayengajoli kuba kumnandi indlela ababethandana ngayo uMajor noAmanda esesi-student uAmanda batshata nangoku sebeqalile ukulentuka ewe kamadoda soze angajoli but ke ngoku ibiyindoda ibiyintombazana etheni lingawuhloniphiyo umzi womfazi ingena imisa imoto ngokungathi ngudade wabo angenamisa imoto ahambe uAmanda awulala e-guest room yena alala e-main bedroom wayicinga uba izawubuya kanjani anditsho mzali uba uMajor wenze into erayithi but kubuya iinyembezi zikaAmanda nditsho mna ndithi ziinyembezi zikaAmanda nabantu bakokwabo abananyani inyani abanayo because kaloku ngeli xesha umntwana umfazi azazokwakha kwakho athini enze zonke izinto usiva uba umntanakho utshathandana nomntu otshatileyo uthini ngomfazi lowa astraglishayo uthini ngomfazi uthi umfazi uthini yena abananyani mzala abantu, abananyani. Ndiyababona noosista babe kumandi, oosista bakhe kumandi. Njengoba ngoku sekukubi ngoku, kubi because kufiwe. Kubi ngoku because kufiwe. Bebengazivezi ezi zinto kuqala because bebebhenefitha nabo. Ndikhumbula mini babeyothatha loo X6 kaLentuka kaAmanda kusenzelwa lo mntana uNamhla ipati esithi abantwana bakokwabo bazahamba ngalaa moto. Yayiyothathwa siphangele. Wafowuna uAmanda efowunela uMeja wathi, ayibo yintoni le uNamhla uthi uzothatha isitshixo seLentuka se-X6 kum. Wathi uMeja, ewe mnike, bazawuhamba ngayo. Eva ke wayinika uAmanda iLentuka. Bagqiba bathi bona xa bethetha uAmanda xa ithi ndizawuhamba ngantoni, kwathi uyawubiza abasebenzi bakaMeja bazokuthatha. Eva ke kwangekabikho ke nabaBolt noontoni ngelo xesha. Hayi, makube ewe khona kubi, but mna ndibhitha kweli cala loba ngoku sengathi ngoku kwenziwe into. Ngoko uAmanda kaloku naye much as uba engazange abulawe nguMeja, much as uba engazange abethwe nguMeja, but emotional wambulala wamgqiba uAmanda. Wambulala wamgqiba uAmanda. So mabayithethe kabayithethayo. Kwanina lowo njengoba kusithiwa uLentukile but beyi-enjoya into imali kaMeja, enjoya yonke into eyenziwa nguMeja, enomkakhe uMeja. Uno-11 rooms. Kungcono yena uba ushiye kokwabo kuno-11 rooms owakhiwe nguMeja. Kungcono because kwale moto abuleweyo kuyo yimoto ebilentuka nguMeja. Akho nto, sentsho uba akho nto.
Nothing at all should excuse GBV and femicide. Absolutely nothing. Thank you for your time, your support, and being with me on this journey to finding serenity. If you enjoy listening to me or watching my channel, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. How, you may ask? Just click on the subscribe button below and click on the notification bell so you can be the first to know when I release a new episode. You can also become my Patreon if you feel like it. The Patreon link is available below, or you can find me on www.patreon.com/DumisDailyGrind. Patreon is a membership platform that provides tools for content creators to run a subscription service. It helps us earn an income by providing rewards and perks to our subscribers. If you would like to get in touch, you can send an email to dumisdailygrind@gmail.com. If you prefer listening rather than watching, you can find my podcast, Dumi's Daily Grind, on popular podcasts such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and others. Until I see you next time, stay well and may your higher power shower you with blessings and keep you safe today. Let us be diligent with the work required to achieve our goals and hopefully experience serenity and peace of mind. The answers are always right in front of us and will be revealed if we truly seek them. Let us be present, conscious, and intentional in our lives and grow positively to achieve the happiness that we truly seek. Goodbye for now. I will see you next time. Lots of love.